What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Art Shack. So today was a bit of an interesting drawing. I was originally just going to do like a palm tree sort of sketch with a light backdrop, just to kind of give the scene some essence. But I started drawing the backdrop in first, and I'm like, oh, what the hell, I'll just make this a nice big drawing. One thing I haven't really done in a drawing is make a very, very detailed cloudy sky. I've always had trouble with drawing clouds. They're they're tricky with the shading and everything. And even with this, I was going back and forth, and just trying to work in the detail of it. I pretty much just got in the rough shapes of the clouds that I wanted. I just left the blank shapes there. And I went back over into the negative areas and went in pretty dark with pencil. As you can see, the top of the paper is really dark right now, but it ended up working out really well because it really set the mood for the scene, which really gave this completed image a really cool look. So there's a few tools that I used in the sky. One of which I just used a big old kneaded eraser and lightened up the transition from the top of the cloud to the sky above it, and then I blended out the bottom of the clouds into the skies. So what I was looking to do was making the tops of the clouds really pop out while making the bottoms of them really blend in with the sky, because that's kind of what happens in real life, but not always. But when you do it in drawings, it gives a nice effect where it looks like the clouds are alive and they're moving. It gives them a nice sense of what's the word? Losing it. It just gives them a nice essence and look. But I pretty much finished with the clouds, and I'm moving down and I'm working in some rocks in the very far distance. And you'll notice that it's starting to take a similar look to a couple drawings I've done before. I usually like to work from memory. This whole scene I did from memory. What I like to do is I draw certain things in the sketchbook. I'll draw cliffs and rocks and on one page of my sketchbook, and then when I'm drawing, I'll always look back and refer to how did I do that, like what kind of textures and lines, and then I'll always refer back and look at that, and then I'll apply that to the new drawing. I just wanted to mention that for the most part, this whole drawing only used two different pencils. I used a 2H and a 4B. I just wanted to use a broad range, or just a big difference in the grades of pencils. And I found that it really gave the image, the finished look, a pretty dramatic effect. And that's what I've usually done in the past. I've always used a really, really light pencil and then a really, really dark pencil. It helps with the textures and everything that I like to do, and it just helps to give it a nice overall effect. You'll notice that I lightly start adding in some water. It's going to be an ocean, and I just lightly add in some horizontal lines. I like to stack the horizontal lines closer together, the closer they get to the horizon. It helps to show the distance and the water receding into the background. I also added in just a little bit of reflection for the cliffs or mountains in the background, just to give them a bit more interaction with the environment, to see how that would play in, and it worked out pretty well. Up close, I really wanted to make like a really good center of attention, so I just started lightly sketching in some white water crashing around. And then I'm like, you know what, let's just put a big old wave right in the smack middle of this thing, and I'll have it crashing up on some rocks, like a jetty and things like that, just to give this image a real nice focal point. I had a little bit of trouble while drawing this because I had a whole bunch of different tones going on at the time, and I wanted to make the wave really pop out. And because I was using a 2H and a 4B pencil, it was kind of hard to get a nice variant, because the water behind was already pretty dark, and I'm going to make the rocks really dark in front. So I want to make the wave itself really dark while making the white water really light, to make some huge amounts of contrast there to really make it seriously pop. And as you can see, I'm starting to work in a little bit of rocks, and I'm putting in a little bit of foam with that, it's called a Tuff Stuff eraser. It's a mechanical pencil, except without the graphite in it. It's like a mechanical eraser. It's my best tool that I've ever picked up, and usually you can find them at any sort of craft store, and they're seriously, it's like the best tool I've ever used. I use it every drawing, there's no doubt about it. It's just a great way to erase out really fine details. And I know a lot of people think, eraser is for erasing mistakes. I completely threw that logic out the window. I use erasers to make more details and to make my drawing look better. And so, like I said in the very beginning of this video, I was saying I was going to make this a palm tree beach. And you're probably wondering, well, where's the palm trees? I was working out during the drawing, well, where could I put these? I was thinking maybe I could put them in on the left side, have it come up by the mountains or the cliffs in the background. But then I was like, nah, because that would send the viewer's eye off the page, off to the right. So I figured I'd put them in on the right side of the page, have them come up, and that way it would bring the viewer's eye, back into the page, and it would just kind of focus everything right around the middle where that wave was going, just to really focus the attention in that one spot. For those of you who actually have a range in pencils, this is a trick that I use pretty much every drawing. Use a lighter pencil, so in this case I was using a 2H, and I was scratching in horizontal lines going up into the trunk of these palm trees. And then use the 4B pencil, and then go over it and just shade. And what that will do is that will leave those horizontal marks, they'll still be there. You'll see them through the shading. So it's a great way to draw in texture and then shade over it. It makes really cool looking texture, and that's why I really I love pencils, because even though it's such a simple medium, I feel I know more about how to use a pencil than any other medium. It's really versatile. After I drew in the trunks of the trees, I realized that wave had to be a little bit darker. I needed to bring out some of that foam that's in there. So I went in there and did that. And I wanted to draw in the palm trees before I finished off the drawing, just to see how they would look. Depending upon how dark or how light they came out would depict how light or how dark the rocks would be in the foreground. I wanted to see if I wanted to go for like a really dramatic look, or just kind of like a laid back sort of peaceful, nice beach day look. But looking at the clouds, it's big clouds, and when I started drawing in the palm fronds, the way that I had the lines going, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a windy day. I had them all like arching back into the drawing, just again to bring the viewer's eye back into the middle of the picture for the focus. And I gave the angles some serious curvature to them, just to really put the point across that there's some wind whipping out there. And then you could also tell, by the splashing of the water, the mist and the water just blowing all over the place. So I wanted to give this a nice look, but at the same time I wanted to give it some action, so that way when you look at it, you can see that there's stuff going on. It just gives it a little bit more visual interest. Remember how I was saying I did the texture for the palm tree trunks, with the 2H pencil, and then going it with the 4B pencil? It's the same thing for the palm fronds. You want to do it with a 2H pencil, just lightly put in the leaves for it, and then go over it with a 4B pencil, and it'll leave all that texture in. And because the 2H pencil is significantly lighter than the 4B, it looks like highlights on the actual palm fronds. So it gives it a really cool effect. I always like to find different things or techniques I can do that will create texture that will help to save me a lot of work and effort in the end. It'll give me that look I want without having to spend hours trying to do the most minute details to the drawing, so that just takes forever. So I finished the top tree first because that was the one that was furthest in the background, and then I'm working on the one that's closer into the middle of the picture now. And I mainly did this because I wanted that one to be in front of the one that was closest to the left, just to kind of bring it in, and it would give it more of a focal point. As I kept drawing in the palm trees, I noticed that I had to make them pretty dark to make them show up on top of the water, but then I noticed that in the sky they really popped out because of how light the sky was compared to the water. And I realized that from this I'd have to darken a few elements within the drawing to keep a balance, because if I left those palm trees as dark as they were, they would steal way too much attention, and that's not what I wanted to do. I kind of wanted them to be there for aesthetic purposes, but not to be the star of the show, so to speak. So here I took in another sheet of paper and put it down. That way my hand doesn't smear all the graphite that's on the paper already. It's a great way to save a lot of work in the end. And I did this to start drawing in the rock on the side there. And I draw it in relatively dark. Just to, like I said before, just to kind of counteract what I've done with the palm tree, just so that everything sits in balance and everything agrees with each other, and then the overall effect would be a nice completed drawing. I left the bottom portion of the page, I left the middle section open. I wanted to leave that as an area where water was going to be moving back and forth. You know, I kind of imagine this being like a high tide, you know, a really high tide, and the water just gushing in through these rocks and going back out. So later on in the drawing, I completely fill the bottom layer portion in, and then erase out a bunch of foam and things just to show that water is really moving around, just to help to give it a nice effect in the end. As you can see, I'm making the rocks fairly dark, but I want to leave a lot of varying tones in them just to give them a lot of like rugged texture, just to show that they're very rough rocks. You know, the ones where if you walked on them barefoot, you would walk away in pain, because I wanted them to be, you know, sharp rocks, ones that you don't want to be on without some good pairs of shoes, you know, something like that. So I did that just by putting jagged edges on the outlines of them. And just, I want a very rugged, you know, untouched scene. You know, it's just something that's, you know, not polished over, not, nothing man-made there. Just rough, untouched nature. That's what I was really going for here. And the final portions of the landscape was adding in a bunch of tall grass at the base of those palm trees, and that was the finishing touch to wrap up this entire picture. Alright everybody, I hope you all enjoyed this one. It became more than what I expected it to be, but I hope you all enjoy what I've created. If you do, please hit the thumbs up button. It seriously helps out, but what helps out even more is subscribe. So I will see you all later. Take care.